Welcome to Ask the Property Experts. I am Kura Chihota. If you've got any queries with regards to sectional titles, I humbly suggest you keep watching, because today we're joined by Marina Constas of BBM Attorneys and Herschel Jawitz of Jawitz Propeties to give you all we need to know about the wonderful world of sectional titles. Marina, this type of property ownership is here to stay in South Africa. It's pervasive and growing. You were down at the Nama Indaba down in Stellenbosch. Yes. What's the word on the street in the industry that looks after sectional title property?
Correct. There were a couple of things that really came to the fore, particularly the one being that managing agents are really going to have to change the way they perceive their clients and the way they view the industry in order to keep up. We had a speaker from Australia who came in and told us about web portals as a managing agent that you have to have when you are running a complex. People really want self-service. They want to be able to go in somewhere, they want to be able to look up their statement or invoices and change things and make sure that they are able to vote, they're not ambushed by certain things. Sure. It almost becomes like a social estate kind of intervention by managing agents. So that was really interesting and exciting. And then of course the news on the Ombud isn't really that exciting, to be honest.
But appointed?
Well, not yet, as far as I know.
Promised?
Yeah, promised. We're waiting. I think we're going to wait another 18 months to 2 years before anything really comes about. They're waiting.
We need that forum to.
Yeah, they've got
to keep, it's a check and balance to keep the whole system thriving and working well.
Yes, there is a board that's been appointed, but other than that, for the Community Ombudsman Services Act, there's a board, but they're waiting for money to be deposited in order to start opening up a branch in Pretoria. So yeah, the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act is not effective and certainly won't be, I don't think, for a while.
Right. The State Agency Affairs Board have a hand in our whole industry. What did they have to say if they were there?
The board was represented at the Indaba. Ultimately, my biggest gripe with the Estate Agency Affairs Board is that they treat the managing agents as a poor cousin to estate agents. Sorry, Herschel, but they do. Ultimately, these guys are going on training courses as managing agents to up their qualifications, and they're learning what estate agents learn. It's not even tailored to suit the needs of the managing agents, and we need to see professionalization of the managing agents industry. Yeah, so the Estate Agents Affairs Board has got a lot of work to do. Hopefully with the appointment of Brian Chaplog as the not acting anymore, I think we'll see good things. But of course, actions speak louder than words.
Sure. Herschel, talk to me about the sectional titles. People are buying, selling. As I said earlier, it's a very popular form of ownership in South Africa. What are you seeing out there through your show days?
Firstly, listen, it's nice to be the rich cousins. Normally we're the poor cousins. So I think that what we're seeing in the sectional title market for the first time since 2007, 2008, when the market peaked and then sort of fell off the back of a bus, is that we're starting to see the sectional title builders coming back into the market, and it's always a good weather vane of where the market potentially is heading. So when you've got your sectional title builders building, demand is picking up, and I think the important part about that demand is that it's demand generally in your first time buyers market. We're not talking about the luxury high-end residential, but when your sectional title builders are coming in, facilitating or catering to your first time buyers, it's a very healthy sign for the market, because any recovering market needs a push up approach. So your first time buyers are coming into the entry level sectional title, and it's allowing those sellers to move higher up into the
property
market.
ladder. Yeah, somebody has to start, get an asset, appreciate, sell it, move up the run.
Absolutely. So it's a healthy sign, and I think just some of the challenges are that with interest rates being at 40-year historic lows, and with property prices being where they are, still relatively low off the peak of a number of years ago, there are lots of first-time buyers, but there are challenges around affordability, around bonds, around 100% bond grants, which the banks are still relatively strict on. But the sectional title market is generally healthy, and those prices are expected to rise for as long as we have a shortage of stock in that market.
Marina, I was out on the weekend. I saw this lovely property. It's got it owns my heart. I want to make an offer in and buy it. It's in a sectional title scheme. If I come to your office after the show and I say, Marina, I want to put an offer in on this property and it's a sectional title, what information do I need to be considering before putting in that offer?
I think all importantly, you need to find out what the status of that building is from a financial point of view and also just from a general operational running point of view. So you would need to ask the seller to obtain the financial books of account and record for that complex. You need to see what the arrears are like in the building. I would probably be too pedantic, but I would ask for the trustees' minutes, which they have to keep in perpetuity. So I'd like to just see exactly what's going on, what are the issues. Is there a lawsuit for millions against that building? You know, these are all the things. You also need to look at the state of the building from a maintenance point of view as well. Is there going to be a special levy that's going to be imposed? Who are the managing agents? Are they reputable? Have they been, are they NAMA members? Have they been registered with the Estate Agency Affairs Board? Do they hold a Fidelity Fund certificate? Yeah. I might even knock on a few doors and go and ask people what it's like living there.
So as with anything, you have to be involved. You actually have to do the legwork and understand what it is, the asset and the situation that's around it in that asset.
You do, but most people don't do that at all. They like the unit, they like the building, so they just buy into the building, and all of a sudden then they're faced with the fact that maybe they can't keep the dog that they want to, or the fact that they can't extend that little study and make it a bedroom for the new baby that's coming in. So all these things, it's all about being proactive.
Take me through some anecdotes, Herschel, in terms of that first-time buyer. Come in maybe a little bit naive and say, look, I've found this wonderful unit. What are some tales that you can tell us about basic errors that have been made in buying sectional title?
One of the biggest areas is pets. So, you know, added onto the financials is you have to have a look at what the body corporate rules are. So that's one of the biggest issues we have. Oops. Forgot to mention there was a cat that I was bringing along. All body corporates decide that even though in the rules it says you can have pets, suddenly there are too many cats and too many dogs, and they decide of their own accord, well, until a cat leaves or until a dog unfortunately dies, we're having no more dogs and no more cats, and this poor new purchaser gets caught in the middle. So pets is the big anecdote, and just understanding issues around sectional title living. So who's responsible for what? And generally the rule of thumb is what's inside your unit you're responsible for to repair and upkeep, and what's outside the unit the body corporate is responsible for. And just, you know, adding to what you were saying is that what we find most in sectional title complexes is an apathy around getting involved. So you've spent all this money, get involved, get onto the body corporate, if for no other reason, protect your own asset. And body corporates, the stricter the body corporates and the more pedantic they are, the better you find those complexes are run, the more money they have in the bank, and ultimately what does it do when it comes time for you to sell? It enhances the value of your unit. Sure. So, you know, often people buy into sectional title, pull their hair out with body corporate rules, but it's there to enhance the value of the complex and protect you as an owner.
I'm going to leave it right there for this half. We're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We're back with our experts talking sectional title. You're still watching Ask the Property Experts. I'm still Kura Chihota, and we're taking a look at the developments in the world of sectional titles. Marina, Constas and Herschel Jawitz are sharing their experiences with us. Talk to me about arrear levies. As we're all under financial pressure, there's a responsibility to make sure that your levies are up to date, but people will tell you, well, I can't afford, I can't do, and people deprioritize paying levies. They'll pay their bond, they'll pay school fees, and put petrol in the car, but the levy is, you know, it's almost like a governmental service. Talk to me about the issues around arrears.
Well, it can get out of control very easily, Kura, and ultimately the trustees are responsible for running that building, so they need to be on top of the levies. It's no point just delegating it off to the managing agent. You have to see every month who is in arrears, what the situation is. Zero tolerance must be the order of the day with regard to levies. levies which are in arrears for a long time can capsize a building financially. So you need to start sending letters straight away. As soon as somebody doesn't pay, hand them over as soon as they don't pay for at least a month or two. We take real levy matters to arbitration now if they become opposed, which is much better than going to court. Going to court in terms of the Green Acres case, we managed to get it into the forum of arbitration. It's quicker, it's cheaper, and certainly you get the amount that you claim as at the date of the award. We're also finding mediation a good way to solve problems. I'm an arbitrator, and I can honestly tell you that in 90% of the cases where you have the parties facing each other in an arbitration, if they had just taken the time to talk to each other about this charge I don't like, why is that happening, that was a duplicate charge, whatever it is, we wouldn't have had to be at arbitration in the first place.
Herschel, when people come into a showdown on a sectional title, do you make available the body corporate's financial statements? Do your agents on the ground speak to people about the issues in the complex?
Yeah, and I think that's important to do for a potential buyer, is not only do your own homework, but talk to the agents, and the agent should have all of that information. So we generally don't make the financial statements available at the show day. They are to some degree confidential to the body corporate, but when there is buyer interest and the buyer says, I will put in an offer subject to vetting the financial statements, we then obviously make those financial statements available. And if the purchasers, and sometimes they do ask to speak to the chairman of the body corporate or one of the trustees, we'll provide that information, because ultimately all of it works in favor of the complex, and the buyer has to have all of that information, not only to satisfy his own sense of what the complex is about, but if the financials are not up to scratch, if there are significant arrears, and we've seen it, banks will not grant a bond on a sectional title complex where they have concerns about arrears, about lack of funds, which will ensure that the building or the complex is maintained, which protects the value of their assets. So never mind what you think about it. What's more important is what the bank thinks about it, because if they're not happy, they're simply not granting a bond.
Oof, and that puts you in a bit of a bind that you can't sell, because the purchaser is going to come and he's going to want to get a bond, and if you've been running up in arrears, you've actually crimped the value of your asset.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about the dreaded special levies. When do they come in? How do they get passed? And what are the issues around special levies?
Well, special levies are raised by the trustees. Quite recently, a section of the Sectional Titles Act was deleted, one of the rules, and that said the trustees can raise special levies. More recently, it's been placed back into the Act again, so it caused a lot of confusion amongst many people. As the position reflects now, if you do want to raise a special levy, if the trustees need to do things with regard to maintenance, or something urgent comes up, or anything else, then they are entitled by themselves to raise that special levy. They don't have to revert back to the body corporate.
Ouch.
Unless
That's a worry.
There's been a directive or a restriction placed on them at the annual general meeting in terms of Section 39.
That makes me worried that some trustees acting on my behalf can come and clobber me with a 2,500 special levy to fix something that I might argue is not urgent, or what the luxurious and non-luxurious improvements. What's the check and balance in that set of circumstances?
Well, you must go to the AGM. You need to be at the AGM so that you can place that restriction and say, look, the trustees aren't allowed to spend more than 10,000 Rand without coming back to the body corporate on non-maintenance issues or maintenance issues, whatever. You have that power to do that. But if you don't attend and you're apathetic, then of course the trustees can take the gap.
Herschel, talk to me. You've got a number of agents operating countrywide. Tell me what the hotspots are for some of these sectional title properties.
Just to add one thing with regard to that special levy, so just as a purchaser, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time of signing an offer to purchase that's accepted, at the time of acceptance of the offer to purchase, if the special levy has not been declared, then the purchaser takes responsibility for that special levy. And it's an important question to ask. At the time of an offer being submitted and accepted, the purchaser needs to know there might be a special levy coming, but if it's been declared by the body corporate, then it will determine whose responsibility it is for.
point.
Just in terms of hotspots, you know, certainly some of the trends we're seeing a lot more are lifestyle sectional title buildings. You know, so not just a block of flats or townhouses. You know, it's got indoor pools, gyms, concierge services, a lifestyle bar or some form of communal entertainment. It's definitely a new trend, and we're seeing both certainly in Johannesburg and in Cape Town, really some really good trends around urban living. So, you know, in Johannesburg we've got areas like the Mabaneng precinct, we've got parts of town. Cape Town as a city, as a CBD, is still very sought after with great nightlife. People, you know, work, live, play. So those are some of the trends, and those markets where it can cater to that sort of development are doing well.
Marina, just to close us off here, take me through 3 big things that we need to be mindful of.
Rules of the body corporate, I think that's important. The legal trends that we...
Where do we get a hold of those?
At the deeds office at the moment. When the Ombud comes in, it will be kept at the office of the Ombud.
Every scheme has its own rules,
yes,
and these are publicly accessible.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you haven't tailor-made your rules, then the model rules would apply.
Okay.
I think something that's pretty interesting going forward is that the trustees need to look at possible litigation going forward in future as a trustee or as a director of a homeowners association. That came out in quite a big way when we look at international legislation. So are you covered? Have you got the correct insurance in place? We mentioned a case where youngsters had died and drowned in a dam in the States, and this particular homeowners association got sued for 30.7 million rand in America. So we need to look at that. And then I think the third thing is greening of buildings. Going forward, that's a biggie. It really is. In Australia in 2011, they changed the legislation to say that you only need a simple majority if you want to change anything in a scheme on the facade which is going to result in energy reduction. Whereas here you still have to look at, is it an improvement, is it necessary, not necessary? So that's exciting.
There we go. Afraid that's all we're going to fit into this show. Thanks to both Marina and Herschel for joining us. If you've got a question for our experts, you can send it through to Ask Property Experts at bdtv.co.za. Remember, in property, no such thing as a stupid question. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.